Okay, hello everyone. I can see that some people are still joining us, but it's 11 o'clock, so we're about to start. I would like to welcome everyone to the Policy Area Tourism webinar on EU's initiatives in tourism. My name is Magda Leszczyna-Rzucidło, and together with my colleague Anna-Maja Toivonen, we are working as Policy Area Tourism coordinators, and we propose this webinar today to allow us all to get more familiar with recent interesting EU initiatives that are happening and are related to tourism. And especially for today, we have invited for everyone two experts from European Commission to tell us more about the important document EU Pathway to Tourism and EU Tourism Dashboard. So we are very happy to see everyone here with us. I can see that some people are still joining, but nevertheless, we can start our webinar. So just for the very beginning, I would like to give you short glimpse on today's agenda. So our meeting today is set for 1 hour and a half. And after a short welcome and technical info, we will give a brief introduction to EU strategy for the Baltic Sea Region Policy Area Tourism. Then the floor will be for Kirsti Ala-Mutka, our first panelist, policy officer from European Commission, from DG GROW, and she will talk about the transition pathway for tourism. Later, after the possibilities to raise some questions, they will be answered by Kirsti. And we have the second part of the webinar where Ricardo Barranco from European Commission Joint Research Center will tell us about EU Tourism Dashboard. And this will be also followed by question and answer session. So whenever you feel like you have some question, you are very welcome to raise them and they will be answered immediately by our great experts. And afterwards, there will be a short summary and information on the upcoming events and initiatives that we still have planned for you as Policy Area Tourism. So our event is scheduled to be no longer than 1 hour and 30 minutes. We hope that is enough for us all to familiarize with the EU initiatives, the two EU initiatives that we set for today. And just general information, our meeting is recorded. This is a webinar, so the participants, apart from the panelists, are not visible and you are all muted by the default. The purpose for recording of this webinar is that we want to later post it on our website. You can see the link of the website on the screen now. We know that some people wanted to join today, but they had some other meetings scheduled. So this is a great chance for everyone to come back to this webinar or see it in case you missed it. As mentioned, all the participants are muted, but you are very welcome to interact with us and our panelists. Please ask questions in chat. You can write your comments. You can also use the question and answer session. You see the button on your screens. We will also share the presentations that you will see today on our website. And in case you have any follow-up questions, comments, or suggestions for maybe some future initiatives, you can always contact me and my colleague Anna, Maya. We are both here for you. So without further ado, I would like to now ask my colleague, Anna-Maja Toivonen from Regional Council of Oulu, working as Policy Area Coordinator together with me. And Anna-Maja will give us a short presentation about the Policy Area Tourism. Anna-Maja, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Magda. Sorry about the shortness. I didn't find the button for the mic, but now I hope you can see my presentation. So my name is Anna-Maja Toivonen, and I also work as a Policy Area Coordinator for Policy Area Tourism, together with my colleague Magda. And as Magda told, I come from the Council of Oulu region, which is located in northern Finland. And Magda comes from the Pomorski Tourist Board from Gdansk, Poland. So we are both located by the Baltic Sea. One of us represents the southern part of the Baltic Sea and the other one, the northern side. And I think this helps us to see the Baltic Sea region as a whole. And that is also one thing that makes our cooperation very fruitful. I will first shortly show you introduce the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. So this is the first macro-regional strategy in Europe, and the strategy is divided into 3 objectives, which are saving the sea, connecting the region, and increasing prosperity. There are 14 interconnected policy areas, and policy area tourism is one of them. Policy area tourism provides a platform to reinforce sustainable tourism development in the region. And our aim is to create networks and strengthen the dialogue between tourism stakeholders across the Baltic Sea region. And we also want to develop synergies by linking projects, initiatives, and organizations with the tourism activities, and to facilitate and strengthen the cooperation in the region to find solutions to our common challenges. We have 3 actions, and the first one is transnational tourism development in remote and rural areas. The aim of this action is not only meant to increase the tourism revenues, but also to help to create jobs, well-functioning infrastructure, good living environment, and other local support services that can help slow down the rural and urban migration in the Baltic Sea region. Action 2 is investing in people, skills, and technology in the tourism industry. And this action aims to strengthen socio-economic development and sustainable growth, as well as citizens' well-being and personal fulfillment by supporting training, modern labor markets, digital skills, and technological innovation. Action 3, protection and sustainable utilization of cultural heritage and natural resources in tourism destinations. The idea of the Action 3 is to encourage green, authentic, sustainable, and environmentally friendly tourism, and to promote a kind of tourism that is respectful of local identities, host communities, and cultural heritage in the Baltic Sea region. Then a couple of words of our work in practice. We have a steering group, which has members from each Baltic Sea countries: Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Germany, and Denmark. And we also have a member from the European Commission. And for our work, it is essential that the perspectives of all 8 countries are presented and taken into account through the steering group. So the steering group has a very important role, and they support our work and help us to ensure that the implementation of the strategy is across the Baltic Sea region. We have 2 meetings per year, but between the meetings, we are regularly in contact by emails. And there are also many events we participate in person or online, and we also organize some events ourselves, like today's webinar. But there are 2 annual events And the first one is the annual forum of EUSBSR. And that's important us because there we have the possibility to meet all the actors and organizations and projects which are implementing the strategy. And the other one is our own annual event, which is Baltic Sea Tourism Forum, also called the BSTF. And this forum has been organized by Policy Area Tourism since 2008. And it attracts key tourism stakeholders from around the Baltic Sea, like DMO representatives, regional authorities, local municipalities representatives, etc. And usually this is a live event, but last year we made it online. And on this picture, you can see our last year's invitation with the pictures of the two keynote speakers, tourism experts we had there. And about this year's BSTF and also other upcoming events, we will tell you more in the end of this webinar. So this was our short presentation about Policy Area Tourism. And now it's time to move on to the themes of today and give the floor to our speakers from European Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna-Maja. Thank you so much. So after this brief information on our work, I hope that you know more now how we can support you, what you expect, what can you expect from the Policy Area Tourism coordinators. And as Anna-Maja already said, today's event is one of many that we wish to propose to our stakeholders so that you can work with your tourism activities and initiatives even better and with better overview. And without further ado, we would like to now start with our guests. We have invited today two panelists from the European Commission. And now I would like to ask Kirsti Ala-Mutka, expert policy officer from DG GROW Unit G1, working with tourism and textiles, to introduce to us the transition pathway for tourism, the document that a lot of us has heard about, maybe not all, so this is even better that we have this chance today, but there are still probably some questions we may have about the document, and one of the most important one would be what to do with it, what comes next, how can we work with this document, and how can we make it all work. So Kirsti, we are very happy that you accepted our invitation for today's event, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Magda. And yeah, that's quite a challenge now to explain to you in 20 minutes everything that you can do with the report, but let's see how I managed to do that. I'm trying to share my slides with you. Let's see how it works. So you should be seeing the slide now. Can you confirm that you see it?
Yes, we see them.
Okay, excellent. So as said, I'm coming from DG GROW, the part of the European Commission that works with the internal market, SMEs, industry, and entrepreneurship. And we are working also on tourism because our perspective to tourism is that it is one of the key 14 industrial ecosystems in Europe. So on the slide now, you should see the description of how we define tourism. We consider it as composing several sectors, of course, accommodation, food service activities, transport, travel agency, but also creative arts and entertainment activities, museums, sports activities, recreation, and so on. So it was realized during the COVID crisis that this is a very important ecosystem. It represents a significant share of employment and of the cross value added in Europe. And it was very, very vulnerable to the restrictions that came for traveling, for going out, for basically getting together, which is the key part of the tourism, because it is a services industry which gives experiences to people. So it was recognized that not only tourism, but all the industrial ecosystems need now to recover. And furthermore, they need to cover by looking forward and not backward. So it is important that now we pay attention to the green transition, to the digital transition, and we make them work at the same time when we are recovering from the COVID-19. Today, we know that we have been covering quite well, but we have been trying to do it also at the same time while looking at the changes that there are within the customers, because we know that the customers are asking today for more environmentally friendly travel opportunities. They are conscious of the sustainability. 80% of the European citizens responded to the Eurobarometer that they would be ready to change their travel and tourism habits to be more sustainable. So we started working on a transition pathway on what we actually would need to do in the area of tourism to create a transformation which would be in line with the European objectives of the Green Deal, of the digital decade, of all the transition, and at the same time make the tourism ecosystem stronger. So we created a transition pathway as the first industrial ecosystem with links to all of these different sectors, to different policies, and with the different other ecosystems such as creative and cultural industries, agri-food, and so on. So then what is this transition pathway I'm talking about? It is a process. It is a report, but it's also a process. It was something that we wanted to co-create together with the stakeholders. We started in June 2021 with a staff working document on highlighting the trends in tourism, the vulnerabilities in tourism, and the areas where changes could happen. We consulted stakeholders online and through 16 different workshops where we discussed of what the stakeholders themselves consider important areas to be addressed in the transformation of the European tourism. We had several meetings with the member states representatives because they are the key decision makers in tourism, where it is actually a distributed competence so that every country and their regions are responsible of their own tourism policies. And we consulted with all the different European actors, with the different policy actors, in order to truly create together an outcome where we recognize actions and objectives for the transformation of European tourism. This is what you see here as a small picture of the report that's called Transition Pathway for Tourism. It is a policy report that was published a little bit more than a year ago, and it's available in 22 languages. So for all of you, you can download it from the Publications Office website in your own language. And this is then the starting point for us to taking concrete actions of making it happen. And this is where we are now. We are now progressing from the co-creation to co-implementation, to work together in taking action in all of these different areas. We are inviting stakeholders to make concrete commitments, to take actions, and to share their actions with us so that we can share them further and facilitate as best practice. And also to use these actions as inputs for our evaluation of progress of where we are, how we are proceeding in the transition. Maybe you have already read the Transition Pathway Policy Report, maybe not yet. I'm not going to use my time of reading through the report to you. I'm just giving here some different areas of actions, but I really advise and encourage every one of you to have a look at the report because it gives you much information of the tourism context, of the related policies, of the different areas, and why these areas of actions have been considered as important. It highlights activities on altogether 27 topic areas where there are 70 different actions. And for the purpose of presentation, I am here just grouping them together to showing, for example, that there is a group of policy and governance where action is needed to improve the collaborative destination governance and the strategies for tourism on national, on regional, also on local level. the improvement of the monitoring of the tourism through better indicators is important part of this group of actions. There are groups of actions on the digital transition which highlight making better use of the digital opportunities for tourism, of making information available for the customers, allowing the customers themselves to find their specific points of interest, for example, to share data between the different tourism actors so that they can work together and provide better services or monitor the tourism happening in their destinations and develop new innovative tourism offers with the digital opportunities available, for example, virtual tourism, augmented reality, digitalization of cultural heritage assets, and so on. A very important part of the transition pathway is the green transition, where we highlight that the tourism services should be more friendly to the environment. They should pay attention to reducing waste, reducing use of energy, especially reducing food waste and the environmental footprint of the food services, having more environmentally friendly transport options available, and overall make strategies on the company level of reducing the impacts and following them with shared information frameworks such as the eco label or the eco sorry, now I'm actually forgetting the name of EMAS, the Eco Management Scheme and Auditing Systems of the Europe. So there are existing frameworks that help you and the companies to be more environmentally friendly. There is a group of actions on highlighting the enablers for the change, which is the skills. There is definitely need for more skills for the tourism actors to realize the opportunities of the digitalization, the new demands on the more sustainable services by the customers, and overall understanding of the changing policy environment, which is also pushing forward the changes, especially on the environmentally friendly activities. And these are all things that can then support the long-term resilience of tourism. I heard in the first presentation that you mentioned that one of the key aspects is to improve or try to maintain the vitality of the rural regions. This is one of the areas of the resilience that are considered on the transition pathway of thinking the well-being of the communities, the sustained and long-term well-being of the communities on the diversified tourism services, reducing seasonality, and making tourism to actually be a positive contributor to the well-being of the people in all types of regions, rural and urban as well. We also include inclusion here because actually a really significant part of the European citizens are already getting older. For example, if I remember correctly, in 2020, 20% of Europeans were 60 years or older, and we have a significant part of people also with different types of disabilities. They are also customer groups who are interested in traveling and who are traveling with their friends and family. So actually, in order to improve your service provision, you should also consider them as a group to be addressed in your developments. And then there's one group of actions in the transition pathway, which is overall facilitation of the transition through best practice sharing, networking between actors, raising awareness like today of the objectives of the activities and of the existence of the transition pathway. And we are also working on giving better access to all types of support resources, information, funding opportunities to all of the actors. So that is quite a lot in one slide and quite densely. So I really invite you to read the report more concretely in your own time and think, what does the transition pathway mean for you? Because I'm sure there is something for everyone. A key policy development from our perspective is that the member states, the European member states, are also supporting these areas of actions that were highlighted by the stakeholders during the 8-month-long co-creation process. they adopted council conclusions in the beginning of last December, where they are highlighting strategic agenda, strategic compass for the EU agenda for tourism. And in its work plan, they are supporting these same 5 areas of policy and governance, green transition, digital transition, resilience and inclusion, and skills and support for transition. So this shows that they are committed to supporting these same areas of actions that the European stakeholders have been recognizing as important. So how are we then going forward with this? Well, our key action is to everyone to work together. Tourism, like I said, it's not an area where we can create a single European law that everyone has to do in the same way, and it wouldn't make sense because tourism takes place in different local contexts. It has different economic sectors included and different types of public and private actors. This was one of the key messages that the stakeholders highlighted, that there cannot be one size fits all solutions that everyone should be doing the same way. So we recognize this message and we are supporting it by, instead of imposing something top down, inviting you and all the tourism stakeholders to start working bottom up by starting reflecting what makes sense to you from your perspective to contribute to the common objectives, but making it in a way that fits for your context, for your priorities and your ways of actions. So we are gathering these, we call them pledges from the stakeholders, publishing them and facilitating as best practice sharing between all of you. They are actually available on our website even currently. So this collection of pledges helps us and it helps you to optimize the synergies, to build links between different actors, and also to recognize where more support is needed and where we have already good evidence of actions and progress taking place. You see here on the slide the URL, the address to the pledges collection, but also as the last slide of the presentation, I'm giving you a link to all of the different important websites, and you are going to have the presentation, so you are able to access all of them from those links. So just to say where we are with these pledges currently, we have 382 public pledges on all those 27 topic areas that were recognized as areas for action in the transition pathway, and area 28, which allows free innovation for the stakeholders who think that they can propose even other types of activities. And these pledges are shared quite equally between the different areas of green and digital transition, policy and governance, skills and resilience, and stakeholder support. We have all types of organizations presenting pledges. There are public organizations, private organizations, European level, local level, you name it. All of them are considering that this is an activity that they want to become part of. I have marked to this level to this slide because I understood that today we might be having regional administrations, DMOs and local administrations in the audience. So you can see that also these types of organizations are represented in the commitments and the pledges that are published currently on the transition pathway for tourism. And these pledges are coming across the Europe. We don't yet have all the countries represented, so I would very, very much encourage you to present pledges, because I think here in the audience we have now some countries who don't yet have any pledges. But we have quite a good representation of this far. We have 27 member states and even countries who are not part of the European Union who are supporting the same objectives for the transition of tourism. So then the question for you is possibly that then what can you do to be part of this process, to participate? Well, there are 3 key issues that you can be doing. Please share information on the transition pathway for the actors within your sphere of influence, the DMOs, authorities on different levels, and launch discussions between them and with them on what they could currently do, what would make sense for them, and support the European ambitions at the same time. Then make pledges. When you have discussed with the collaborators, then try to prioritize what would be the key actions and concrete measurable targets for them that you could promise that this is what we want to do and we will put our efforts on. And then support also other actors to make pledges. Make pledges yourself and support the actors within your areas to network together to find information of good pledges and possibly existing actors who have already made pledges and help them to make their own pledges. I'm giving a few examples of different types of pledges that we have. For example, pledges from the regional administrations. We have here the first pledge example from the regional government on Extremadura, where they have a specific pledge of supporting education and training in tourism, where they're giving concrete numbers for different types of educational position or titles that they are going to support in the area of tourism. This is very important because the skills shortage is a real aspect, a real problem in many areas across Europe. The second example is from France, the Pays de la Loire, where they are making a pledge to support sustainable mobility. They are aiming to have that by 2030, all our destinations can be accessible by green means of transport, and nobody would necessarily need to have a private car to visit them. So these are examples, concrete examples of pledges published on our website currently. Another type of example of a local administration is about better monitoring and collecting information of the tourism in the locality. The city of Zagreb is promising to setting up an information collection system where they are collecting information from citizens, visitors, tourists, and making this information available regularly to monitor their tourism development. And a DMO, this is again from France, actually, it's Bordeaux. And this is showing what we are highlighting important, the collaborative aspect of destination development and management. They had a 10-month participatory consultation of developing a roadmap for Bordeaux region, the metropole region, and they are committed to regularly collect information on its progress, to publish this transparently, and they have a target to have a tourism activity support rate among their residents superior or higher than the European medium, and they will be measuring it regularly every 2 years. So these are types of example pledges that we are looking for. We are looking for a concrete action with a measurable result and a target date or frequency. And these are the types of examples can then be shared as best practice and possibly replicated by other actors in Europe. So when you have a good pledge, we can give visibility to your activity and you can help others to be active by sharing your action. Then I wanted briefly also just to mention about funding, because this is a question we get a lot. So where can we get funding for the transition? Well, the transition is something that is worth investing, first of all, because like I mentioned in the beginning, we know that the tourists themselves are more interested, especially after COVID, they have started reflecting the sustainability of tourism. So if you have service provision that highlights sustainability, knowledge and experiences with the local region, these are the types of issues that people are really looking for more than before. So it's worth investing, but we do also have different types of support or funding activities. So on the European level, there are at the moment 15 funding programs that can support tourism. They can support also other issues, but they can support tourism if you have an appropriate type of proposal to make. So I advise you to visit our website, the Guide of EU Funding for Tourism, where you can find more information of them. But I'm also showing here on the slides a little bit information on the overall level. So as a tourism actor, you can be part of the consortia that applies to EU level grant, or as an organization, you can apply to jointly managed funds on national and regional level. As a regional actor, you can be setting up a regional fund for the local SMEs. And if you are an SMEs, then of course the SMEs can apply for the funds available on the local level, regional level, or even on the European level. And I would very much advise to inform to all the SMEs and local actors in your regions that there are also many other type of support activities than the direct funding for SMEs. The European Enterprise Networks, European Cluster Collaboration Platform, Digital Innovation Hubs, the Horizon Europe EIC Accelerator, and so on, which are giving concrete information also on business plan development, on finding collaborators, and so on, and also of the currently available funding opportunities. So these are important resources to be shared within your regions. And then just a quick overview where you can see that those EU level funds that are available currently, they are actually supporting all the different areas of transition pathway: the policy and governance, green transition, digital transition, resilience, and skills. All can be supported under these programs, depending, of course, how you define your project. So, as a conclusion, the transition pathway, it is something that was created together with the stakeholders, for the stakeholders to be implementing together. So it is a collaborative effort for all of us, including the Commission, where we are supporting you to get concretely engaged, and where we are keeping you updated on what we are doing as a to support the co-implementation. We have stakeholder events. We have been just setting up, or we are currently now setting up, an expert group where we have stakeholders who will be representing the broader community and working as a bridge between us. And we are setting up an online stakeholder platform that will be an integrated access point to all relevant knowledge that we have, and that you can, for example, create on the transition of the tourism. And we are just setting up the first evaluation exercise on where we are now this year. So by the end of the year, you will be having a stock-taking report of how we have progressed in the transition pathway. So we are encouraging all of you to be part of that. We are happy to support you, and let's all work together. If you have a moment, in the 5th of May, you are actually going to have a possibility to see where we are currently in the transition pathway. So there is a European Tourism Day in Brussels with 400 different persons with whom you could network if you come, or you can follow it through live stream. You can still register the event. So if you have the possibility, please join us. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Kirsti. That was, wow, a great knowledge pill from you to us. So thank you so much for that. I do have one comment and one question, but just before that, I wanted to remind everyone that there is a chat box where you can write your questions, and we will take them immediately. I just wanted to come back actually to one of your last slides when you were when you were talking about funding. You showed this great table with an overview. Where can we get money to act? Because as you said, indeed, it is always the question coming from the stakeholders. So we know what to do. We want to start with the activities. We are eager to start, but where can we get the money? So thank you also for this overview. And just to add, because we have many participants joining us today from the Baltic Sea region. So of course, in our region, there are also other funds available. You can think about the territorial cooperation funds like Interreg, for example. We have Interreg Baltic Sea Region program. We have number of cross-border programs. And whenever you will be applying with your smaller or bigger project related to tourism, you are usually asked in the project application, how does your project, how does it commit to some EU-wide strategies on tourism? Is it in line with the EU strategies on tourism? And as I understand, EU Pathway for Tourism is one of these key strategies where we need to make sure that our projects align with them. And that is also why I think it's great that you showed us today a bit more information, and hopefully people will spend some time to go to the website, read the document. It's also available in national languages, so it's a very easy read, so to say. So we encourage everyone. And I just wanted to ask you one question about the pledges. So what is the next step after we submit the pledge? Let's say a regional authority submits their pledge, and do we get any feedback from the Commission, or are we asked to follow up on the results, what we achieved? So how does the process look like after we submit a pledge?
Excellent question. So, well, first of all, when you are submitting a pledge, you already get the feedback. Well, we are having a look at it, whether it's clear to us that what is the action and what is the result and the target. So there's already interaction at that. Then when it has been agreed that, okay, good, it's a clear pledge, we can publish it. We have these cutoff dates 2 times a year, and then it will be published. And when your pledge is published, then it's visible on our website. You have the link in the presentation, and we are following them. Our plan is to follow yearly the implementation of pledges by contacting you to ask you to update whether it is progressing as you are planned, whether you have implemented what you planned. And of course, this gives you also a possibility to revise if there is something, some surprises that have happened. But we aim to follow yearly with everyone who has submitted pledges, and then to take this into account in our yearly stock taking of how we are progressing in the co-implementation. This year is the first year where we are now doing the stock taking, and we are still trying to find the best mechanism to follow up with the stakeholders, also considering that many pledges have been just published, so not much progress can have been taken place this year. But we try to do it to some extent, and from next year onwards, we will be truly contacting everyone and asking their own progress assessment of how are you doing? Is the traffic light green, yellow, or red, or something similar to that?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I can see that we have some questions on our chat, so maybe I'll read them. So there is a question from Anna. Can a regional tourism organization submit a pledge in example that we wish to develop or update our strategy for tourism in 2023, which will consider EU Pathway to Tourism document and underline the green digital tourism regional transition? Do we need to write specific green or digital goals in the pledge, or just general info that we will adopt the strategy?
We have different type of pledges. We have pledges where some actor is saying that yes, their pledge is to prepare a comprehensive strategy with a green and digital aspects by this and this date. So it can be on that level. But we also have, for example, Visit Flanders, I think, that has a strategy with concrete indicators that they plan to follow, and it is part of their pledge that they will be then yearly update the follow-up with these indicators. This is, of course, even better if you can give some key indicators that you will be using and how you will be publish them, for example, yearly or bi-yearly to follow the strategy. But it is even just saying that we are going to have the strategy by a certain date, it's enough.
Thank you so much. I'm also checking the chat now. So there were some questions about your presentation. Yes, we will post it on our website. You will all receive it with the links and everything. Then you have also a registration link for European Tourism Day in the chat. And then we have a question from Lakes Connect project about yes, your project aligns well with our PA tourism goals. This is great. You were wondering how you can actively engage in our efforts. So we encourage everyone to get in touch with us, and we will be very happy to set up a meeting over Zoom or Teams, where we are always very happy to hear about the projects and how we can find some synergies and think of future possible activities between policy area tourism and various tourism related projects. So just please get in touch with us, me and Anna Maya, and this is always a pleasure for us to hear about the projects. I'm just looking if there is anything in Q&A chat. I don't see any questions yet. So just one question, Kirsti, will you stay with us till the end of the webinar in case any question comes, or you need to head to your other duties?
I can stay to follow also the dashboard presentation. I haven't seen the latest presentation, so I'm interested as well.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So in case anyone has also any other question, you can still post it on chat. So again, thank you so much for bringing us closer to Pathway for Tourism document. Thank you, Kirsti. And now I would like to ask our second speaker, Ricardo Barranco from the Joint Research Center. Ricardo is a scientific officer working for the European Commission, and he will tell us about the EU tourism dashboard. And this presentation is actually also a result from a pledge, if I can use this word, or a request coming from our stakeholders during the last year's Baltic Sea Tourism Forum. We asked our stakeholders and participants what other information you are looking for when it comes to tourism in the Baltic Sea region and tourism in general. And some people were saying that they miss data, accurate, relevant data. And that is why we talked with our steering group members coming from European Commission. What can we do in order to bring some data to our stakeholders? And we were informed about the EU tourism dashboard, and I think it's also a great tool. But yes, Ricardo, we want to know more. So please give us the introduction to EU tourism dashboard. The floor is now yours, Ricardo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here and the kind words, Magda. And now I will share my screen on the presentation. And I'm going to put it in full screen. Let me check on slideshow. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. My name is Ricardo Barranco. I've been working at the Joint Research Center for the past 10 years. And today I'll be introducing the EU Tourism Dashboard, which is the latest tool from the European Commission regarding the tourism sector. And it supports the green and digital transitions that Kirsti before me explained very well. In this presentation, I will start by giving an overview in a nutshell what's the dashboard. Then we'll look to some of the links with the policy documents, and then the third point on the unconventional data sources, because we complement official data from authoritative institutes with some of our data collection exercises. On the fourth point, we'll have an indicator framework to try to place how everything is structured. On the fifth point, on the web interface, so we'll start grasping how it feels like to navigate the platform itself. And as usual, we'll end with the next steps and developments. So the tourism dashboard is an online knowledge tool offering tourism relevant indicators concerning the performance of tourism ecosystem in relation to the green and digital transitions, and also takes into account factors of socio-economic resilience. As main actors is the European Commission, here represented by DG GROW, Kirsti, and GRC, myself, and also with the European Council where member states are represented. As key functionalities, we have the profiling, benchmarking, tracking over time of the indicators. As territorial coverage, we started with EU 27, Then we also had the interest from Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland, and these three countries are also now partly integrated on the dashboard. Temporal coverage, the indicator started in 2019 with yearly updates, and the dashboard is present in 24 official languages. Looking at the timeline, the project started in May 2021 with the kickoff, and by the end of that year, we had the first online pilot version with restricted access. Then we consulted member states through a survey on the first quarter of 2022, and the next quarter, and the same year, we did the redevelopment update using the feedback and comments we received from member states. On the last quarter of the previous year, 2022, in October, more precisely, we had the official launch of the public and consolidated dashboard. Links with policy documents. The European Council EU Agenda for Tourism 2030, published in May 2021, defines as the tourism dashboard as the EU flagship tool for the tourism ecosystem. There's also a link with the European Commission Transition Pathway for Tourism, presented by Kirsti, where the dashboard is one of the 27 proposed actions to support the follow-up on environmental, digital, and social aspects of tourism. It covers several topics, namely Topic 4 on the comprehensive tourism strategies, Topic 6, sustainable mobility, availability of online information of tourism offers, support of digitalization of enterprises, and also topics 25 and 26 on enhancing accessibility to tourism services and visitors and residents. There's also a link with the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, more specifically Target 12B1, where it looks at development and implementation of accounting tools to monitor the economic and environmental aspects of tourism. And we're also developing and proposing an indicator that will have a link with the target 891 on to account for tourism direct GDP as a proportion of total national GDP. Some of the conventional data sources, as I mentioned at the beginning, to complement the official statistics coming from member states and Eurostat and relevant organizations and institutes in the tourism sector, we also do our in-house data collection exercise. And one of the main sources that we use, a combination data source, is the TripAdvisor. For the 2021, we collected for the 27 member states a total of 2 million, over 2 million listings. This means over 300 tourist attractions. So we have the precise location of a tourist attraction TripAdvisor, over 900,000 restaurants and bars, more than 500,000 hotels, and the vacation rentals, almost 500,000 also. Vacation rentals is what TripAdvisor calls short-term rentals. So we're sort of like Airbnb that people are usually more familiar with. So this gives a total of 2.2 million listings. That, comparing with the same exercise that was done in 2017, it's had an increment of 41%, so around 10% per year on the platform. If we look at the map here, we have plotted each one of the listings. So like I mentioned, we have the coordinates for each one of them. So this creates a high resolution spatial data set. If we look at the north of Italy, we will see like a small black square, which is the area of Milan. If we zoom in the area of Milan here, Milan center with a scale of 1 kilometer, here we have represented all the tourist attractions from TripAdvisor. Then we have the hotels, the vacation rentals, the restaurants and bars. And if we put everything together, we see that this kind of online platforms really are able to provide a very huge amount of information with a very high spatial resolution that can complement our analysis on tourism. But for each one of the points you see there on the map, we also have associated fields. So for example, for hotels, we can collect the number of reviews, number of rooms, the keywords, so we know which type of hotel it is, the price or the cost per room, or the cost of the restaurant, if it's like a cheaper restaurant or more expensive. So we have a lot of complemented and associated information. This really increases the coverage of accommodation statistics, because sometimes accommodation statistics are not included in an official statistics. Somehow it happens, sometimes they escape of it. But this high resolution data source can also be used in two ways. Used on the spatial disaggregation of existing indicators. So for example, if we have an indicator at national level, we can use this information as a proxy, as an intermediate layer, to disaggregate that information that is coming from national level to a very close estimation at a regional level. So this is what we call a disaggregation. But we can also combine this information with other data sources to create new relevant indicators. Another important data source that we use is the UCLA. The UCLA gives us the broadband speed for internet connection. What we have here represented on the map is the internet speed divided in 3 classes. So from 0 to 30 megabytes per second on dark blue, 30 to 100 on a light blue, and then the fastest areas and municipalities over 100 megabytes per second, here represented in orange. If we cross this information with the population, we can see then and characterize the shares, and we can also split between cities and rural areas. So we see cities on the left. There's a mistake there in the slide. It's rural areas and not urban areas. But we can see on cities how the share of population having access to faster internet is a lot superior than to rural areas. This information, we have 2 fixed internet, so the ones we have at our homes, and also mobile, so the ones we access using our cell phones. The spatial resolution is a municipality level, so a very high resolution. And currently we have the information for 2020, but we're working on to update this to more recent years. So how is the dashboard structure? Here we have represented the indicator framework. At the top of it, we have the data coming from national statistical institutes, Eurostat, and tourism platforms that, combined with unconventional big data sources like the ones I just mentioned and showed, after being pre-processed and harmonized, integrated, allow us to develop indicators. These indicators were then divided in 3 policy pillars: indicators related with environmental impact, digitalization, and socio-economic resilience, but also a set of 4th indicators that are not policy relevant, but we think that help characterize destinations. And this is what we call the basic tourist descriptors. Wrapping everything, we have web user interface, so where people can navigate with their mouse, but also an API that allows users to access on an automatic way all the information we have generated and to collect it and always be updated with the information that we provide. Hopefully this then will close the cycle and will help on the revision on the regulation of European tourism statistics, and also to support the tourism transition pathway. And this is the consolidated version from October 2022. We have 18 indicators divided in 3 policy pillars, like I mentioned: environmental impact, digitalization, socio-economic resilience, and then the basic descriptors. Basic descriptors, we have information regarding, for example, the night span, arrivals, tourism capacity, so we'll know the number of rooms per destination, occupancy rates, the share of foreign tourists, or how's the progress of tourism recovery. So we see how the present situation is compared in terms of 2019, if already reached the levels of 2019 or we already surpassed. So we're monitoring how is the COVID recovery. Also have information regarding the number of UNESCO sites, protected and designated natural areas, etc. The indicators have to follow a set of key principles. They have to be driven by policy priorities, green, digital, and socio-economic resilience. The indicators were developed in consultation with stakeholders, so member states, the United Nations, OECD, European Travel Council, Eurocontrol, etc. The data needs to be readily available for all EU 27 member states to ensure that the data set is complete and consistent. We integrate several data sources. At territorial level, all the indicators are at least represented at country level, but in those where we have information, we can even go to a regional level. That's 2 and that's 3. 2, we also adopted the concept of tourism ecosystem, where it's represented here on the table with the set of activities and sectors that help us characterize and define what's tourism itself. We include the sectors and activities related with transportation, accommodation and food services, travel agencies, tour operators, but also creative arts and entertainment activities, libraries, museums, etc. Now, looking more into detail to each one of the policy pillars. We'll start by looking at the environmental impact pillar. We have information regarding air travel emission intensity, so the number of CO2s produced per passenger, the tourism greenhouse gases intensity, energy intensity, the share of trips by train, the quality of bathing water, and the dependence on long-distance tourists. But if we think about it, all these indicators need to be normalized. Why is that? They have each one of these indicators as a different unit, a different scale, and a different direction. And direction we mean by the fact that, for example, air travel emissions, the higher is something then detrimental to environment, while for excellent bathing water, the higher is something positive. So we see how these two indicators, they have a different direction. So we need to take into account of this and normalize everything, as I mentioned, in terms of units, scale, and direction, in order to represent all the indicators on a scale that goes from 1 to 100, being that the higher value means a higher performance. And that's what we have here. For a particular country, we see, for example, is having a good score in terms of energy intensity and something a lower score in terms of share of trips by train, because the slice regarding that indicator is lower. The blue dots there represented on the radar chart represents the EU average. So in a quick way, we can also access if that indicator in that country is behaving, how it's behaving in relation to the overall European average. Looking at digitalization pillar, we have the share of e-commerce sales from tourism ecosystem, the share of enterprises using social media, how much is the training on digital skills, enterprises seeking ICT specialists. On the internet speed at tourism destinations, we looked at the hotel location from TripAdvisor, and we cross it and merge it with information from the internet speed. So we knew what was the potential internet speed at the hotels at a very high spatial resolution. On the accommodation listed online, we compare the number of rooms listed on the TripAdvisor with the one coming in official statistics to somehow access if destinations and countries are somehow present online. We apply the same kind of methods in terms of normalization, take account unit, scale, and direction. And here, for example, we see that this country is behaving quite well and performing very well in terms of internet speeds at tourism destinations with a very high slice, while, for example, in terms of seeking ICT specialists is having a lower performance. On the final pillar, the socio-economic resilience, we have the tourism intensity that relates the number of nights spent by inhabitants on that destination, the tourism seasonality, where we look at the coefficient variation. So we see if the night spends are very much concentrated in just a few months of the year, so meaning high seasonality, or if it's something spread out throughout the year, meaning lower seasonality. This is the case of usually coastal areas. For example, we know coastal areas are very popular during summertime, but then in the winter they lose, while urban areas, they usually have a flux of tourists throughout the year, meaning that urban areas and cities often and mostly have like a lower seasonality. On the dependence on top 3 countries of origin, we saw which were the countries, the 3 main countries providing tourists to a certain destination, and we saw how much these 3 countries represented on a total share of tourists. On the tourism diversity, we look at the constant the location of hotels coming from TripAdvisor, and we saw if a certain destination, all the hotels were, for example, located in just coastal areas, meaning low diversity, or if they were somehow more balanced and spread out through coastal areas, urban areas, rural, natural areas, mountainous. So meaning there's a high diversity on terms of on the tourism offer. On the contribution of tourism to employment, we have the shares, and also the final indicators, the average tourism expenditure, where we look at how much tourists spend on average per night. But here we take into account the PPS to somehow normalize, because we know, for example, 550 euros spent in one country might not mean the same in another country. So we take into account and we convert it in terms of PPS, parity purchasing spending. Again, the same kind of reasoning with the normalization. And here we see, for example, this country is performing quite well in terms of the contribution of tourism to total employment, but it's not having a lower performance in terms of seasonality and average tourism expenditure. On the fifth point, we'll look at the web interface. How can we access the information and navigate the platform? There are two main entry points. The first one is it's the My Destination view, where the user can go to the website and type a destination. And in this case, we're looking at Portugal. So we can type Portugal or even the region, and then we'll have access to all the information regarding that destination. So if we type, for example, Portugal, the user will be faced immediately with the map on the left showing the selected country, but also the three pillars and how the country is performing in these three policy pillars. But there's also the possibility, for example, for the user to compare a country with another one. In this case, we decided to also include Hungary. And that's what's represented in the radar charts with the line. So the user can see how Portugal and Hungary are performing in each one of these indicators and see how there are the difference between them. Then there's also a section where we can select the pillar more specifically. And then if the user scroll down, we'll have all the indicators related with that specific pillar, in this case, the socio-economic resilience. We'll have everything displayed immediately in a comparable way. Here also we have in the red bars Portugal, while the Hungary is represented with the blue vertical bars, and the line that you see in each one of the indicators is the EU average. If we look, for example, in the case of both Portugal and Hungary, in terms of tourism intensity, we saw there was like a drop in 2020. We can see clearly how the COVID impacted the influx of tourists through these two countries. But on the right graph in terms of tourism seasonality, we saw there was an increase in terms of the seasonality. And why was that? Because due to COVID restrictions, borders were closed. The tourism only happened during summer times when restrictions were somehow lower. So there was an increase of the seasonality in both of the countries and also in terms of the EU average. So we can see clearly in these two graphs how COVID impacted the tourism sector in a very enhanced way. Another way to navigate through the indicators and have access to all the information is if someone is interested in not in a destination itself, but to have access to all the information regarding an indicator. In this case, we decided to go and look at the tourism intensity. And this is how the user will be presented with the information from the dashboard. We'll have the map on the left with all the NUTS3, and this is one of the examples of the indicators that we can go at the regional level. So, and the user can go with the mouse and hover through the map, and we'll have a pop-up showing the exact value for that region. And we see in Northern Finland, Lappi, where the indicator of tourism intensity has over 11 nights spent per resident that particular year. But it can also select specific regions that then will be represented on the graph on the right. The graph on the right shows the overall distribution of the values, here represented on the map. And then we see the red horizontal line on the top, which is Algarve region, a very touristic region in Portugal. And then the Zuid, Limburg region in Netherlands on the orange, on the blue horizontal line. The vertical line then give us, for example, the EU27 average for that specific indicator, and we can also assess and evaluate in a very quick way if that region is above or below. Here in this section of the dashboard, the user is able to change the indicator and also the spatial resolution. This indicator here represented in NUTS3 is also represented in NUTS2 or even at country level. So we can choose and decide if we don't want so much high resolution, see just an overall picture at country level. On this part of the dashboard, the user has access to, for example, looking at the metadata, the data sources, the description of the indicator, how it was calculated, but also change the graph represented. For example, here we have on terms of these bar charts, but we can also represent in terms of bubbles and other types of visualization. A question that we get often is how I can access this information. For each one of the indicators here represented on the indicator map view, there's a specific button that allows the user to click it and have immediate access to all the information that generates here the maps and the graphs. So it's in a very simple way. Users can just click and have everything related with tourism intensity. The format, it comes in terms of CSV, so easily open on an Excel file, or in terms of JSON that allow us also to create these kind of maps. Final point on this presentation, what are the next steps and developments? We want to continue the maintenance improvement of dashboard up to 2024 with yearly consultations to member states throughout the Tourism Advisory Committee to gather their feedback and preferences for new developments. Every October, we present a fully update of all the indicators represented. We also continue on the technical improvement and developments. Now we are trying to update some of the visualizations here represented, and we also giving support to OECD in terms of the development of sustainable indicators for tourism, mainly at the regional level. On the next release that will come in October this current year, we'll introduce the tourism transition pathway and the EU Agenda 2030. We also have the economic contribution of tourism based on tourism satellite accounts, so coming from member states itself, and also an indicator that gives the potential of tourism opportunities on the natural areas. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. It was clear enough, and I'm open to any questions, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ricardo. That was a lot of information, but it was a lot of great information. So I'm not sure if all of us were aware that there is so many data available and so many interesting boards that you can create with it and follow the trends and see how the situation changes. I have one immediate question. So about the temporal coverage, I saw that there were data from like 2019. So actually you can access the data from few years back and see, for instance, some trends like post-pandemic situation, pre-pandemic situation, and so on. Yeah.
The information it started in 2019. Mm-hmm. We decided to go through 2019 because it was the last year before the pandemic. So it was at the time where the situation somehow on the tourism at European level and even world level was normalized, things were improving, everything was done before the disruption that happened on COVID. So we decided to use 2019 as the first year because it allows us to monitor how the tourism is transitioning and is changing in regards to the normal situation pre-pandemic. So everything starts in 2000 when available. The indicator starts in 2019.
Great, thank you. And I see that there are some questions in the chat. There is a question from Matti Porari from Finland. This is quite a specific question, but do you see that lower dependence on long-distance tourism customers is a positive indicator of both environmental sustainability and economic resilience, especially in uncertain times?
Yes, in our opinion, the source countries or the origin countries of tourists for a specific destination should be more diversified possible. For example, during the COVID-19, Portugal is very much, especially the south of Portugal, is very much dependent on tourists coming from the UK. They represent more than half of the tourists coming to the south of Portugal. So when the British government decided to block the flights due to COVID situation in the Portugal, we saw that the tourism sector immediately had a huge impact because it's very much dependent on just one origin country. So the diversification means that for some reason, a country doesn't allow tourists to come to your destination, the other ones will somehow compensate. So it's a sort of resilience to be more diversified in terms of the origin of your tourists, definitely. In terms of long-haul tourism with the 4 origins, then we know that for them to, in terms of transportation, to arrive to a destination implies higher emissions. So we know that it's something detrimental to environmental part. So it would be preferred to somehow have tourists coming for more closer and nearest origins.
Great, thank you so much for answering that. There were also questions about the address for the tool, but we provided that. And Hubert says it's an amazing and public domain tool. Congratulations for all the team of EU Tourism Dashboard. So this goes to you, Ricardo, and your team. Thank you for working on this tool and giving us a chance to get to know it better. I'm sure many of us will now scroll down the website and try to familiarize ourselves with the tool. The presentation, as it was already stated, we will send it to you, and you will also see the recording from the webinar next week. So in case you want to follow, as Ricardo was talking about the tool, and check for yourself how it works, it will be easier then.
On this last slide, you can see, for example, the link to access the tourism dashboard. And we also have a dedicated email address where you can leave comments and queries. And here in the bottom, grc/tourism@eceuropa.eu. So if you also have some comments, you can drop an email to me directly, or you can use the dedicated mailbox for the tourism dashboard.
Thank you so much. This is all very helpful. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you again, Ricardo. So this was the end of 2 expert presentations that we have prepared for today. So thank you again to Kirsti and Ricardo for being with us and presenting both the document of Pathway for Tourism, but also the dashboard. A lot of knowledge, a lot of info to digest, but we are very happy that we can now start using it in our daily work. So thank you. And for the end, I just promised a very brief information on upcoming events and initiatives from the Policy Area Tourism. So please bear with us for 3 more minutes when I will just inform everyone. I hope that you can see my presentation now. Just about 2 things. So first of all, in case you're wondering where to get all the latest information about what is happening within Policy Area Tourism, what events are coming, what webinars and activities we plan in the near future, you can always go to our website or follow us in our social media. We're active both in LinkedIn and Twitter, so please use these 2 tools, find our profiles and follow us. And when it comes to the upcoming events, my colleague Anna Maya, she already said that there are 2 annual events that are very important for our work. And one of them is the annual EU Strategy for the Baltic Sea Region annual event. And this year, the annual forum is set to happen on 4th and 5th October in Riga, Latvia. So save the date, mark it in your calendars. We will be there for sure, and hopefully with some workshop or seminar that we will apply for. But nevertheless, there is always a great discussion. This year, the key themes are safe and sustainable Baltic Sea region for future generations. And we will especially concentrate on climate affairs, green energy, and youth affairs. So this is one event to mark in your calendars. And the second one is the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum. So as Anna-Maja also mentioned, this is an event that's been happening for 15 years now in our region. And last year we organized an online session in December. But this year we want to go full on board and welcome you all in a physical event. And the date is now set. It will happen on 11th of October in Tallinn. And 2 days before, there will be also another great event, Green Destinations Conference happening in Tallinn, and our event happening as a 3rd day. So the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum, 11th of October. Everyone is very welcome. The registration will start soon. The event will be fully in-person event, so you should come to Tallinn. There will be a chance to meet with a lot of great experts, tourism stakeholders. We expect people from tourism-related projects, from pan-Baltic organizations, from regional authorities and local authorities and DMOs. So everyone who joined the webinar today, but also your colleagues working with tourism, you should definitely think about coming to Tallinn on 11th of October and meet us for this year's Baltic Sea Tourism Forum. And this is it from us. So I'm going to stop sharing now and want to thank once again to my colleague Anna-Maja for helping us to organize this webinar. So we did it within our Policy Area Tourism Coordinator's capacity. And we were very happy to invite our experts. And thank you so much, Kirsti and Ricardo, for bringing our attention to those two EU tools initiatives that are happening right now. We feel empowered in knowledge right now, and we hope that our stakeholders will also use both these tools and pledges tool to work with their upcoming tourism ventures. So everyone, thank you so much again for participating in this webinar. Please stay in touch with us, follow us on social media, and yeah, see you soon. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you from my side as well. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Nice meeting you.